This is three-time World Series champion Jeremy Affeldt, and you're listening to Jim on Base.
Welcome back to another episode of the Jim on Base Show. For today's very special guest, we have on someone who spent 14 years in the big leagues. He's a three-time World Series champion. He has his own podcast called Built for the Storm. He's also the proud CEO and co-founder of Free Roam Brewery. Please welcome the great Jeremy Affeldt. Jeremy, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, excited to have you. And were you working in the brewery today? Because I heard you come in sometimes in the mornings and get some work in.
Yeah. We open up around 11. We're 11 to midnight. Pretty much we're 7 days. We are open 11 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week. But I tend to want to come in. My kids kind of get going for school. I kind of have my day going. I've already got my workout in, so I'll usually get there about 9 o'clock and do some recordings, do some work, do some business stuff. Sometimes I switch my on-air sign on just so no one bugs me. I don't even have a podcast going. I just do it to do it. So it's been good that way, but I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the brewery process. Tonight we have like a cigar lounge night, so we have everybody coming out who smoke cigars, and we have get-togethers. We have music. We have men's nights. We have women's nights. We have comedy. We have trivia. We just do so much fun stuff. It's just kind of been up my alley. I've really appreciated the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, it sounds like a one-stop shop then. You got a little bit of everything going on.
We do, man. We have great stuff happening. We have a great beer garden out back. That's kind of been a big help for us. And then obviously the podcast studio, and I have a good group of guys. Obviously Brandon and Jaron came out with me from 21st Amendment right there in San Francisco. That's when I met them. And Jaron's been doing some unbelievable beer, and Brandon's been working the front of the house really, really well. So it's been just a really cool experience. And I'm actually in a really good town that accepts breweries for what it is. It's community, right? So we have about 5 of them right here on Main Street, and we all get together and have a good time. And the city seems to be very, very thankful post-COVID to have a spot to come hang out at. So that's been good.
Are you hiring any taste testers or?
Yeah, we get a lot of those. I don't even have to hire them. They actually pay to taste it.
Well, what's your go-to kind of beer? Because you have the beard, so it makes me think you're maybe an IPA guy, or?
I am. I'm an IPA guy. I actually really enjoy hazies. It's kind of been probably I started out, just a normal beer. Then I kind of went to the IPAs, and then I started understanding how beer was made. And so I think I really enjoyed that process of it. And then I remember having a hazy my first time. I think it was in Astoria. I was on a salmon fishing trip with my oldest son at the time. He probably wasn't more than, I don't know, 9 years old or so. And I took him up, and we stopped at this brewery, Fort George, I think, brewery up in Astoria. And I remember they had a hazy. I'm like, never had it. I'm gonna try it. And I had it, and I remember I was so excited. I was like, this is amazing. So I text Brandon, who is down here with me now, and I was like, have you ever heard of a hazy? And he started laughing. He's like, yeah, you're about 4 years behind, dude. And I'm like, oh, well, I said, well, I love them. So I actually really like these. So now everywhere I go, I try different hazies, and we have one called Quick Clouds here, which is not just because we brew it. I'm not kind of like that. I want to be as objective as possible, because I think it's positive feedback for the brewery and for the brewer. But it really truly is probably my favorite hazy. I don't think I've had many that have beat it. So actually, when Quick Clouds comes out, and it is one of our signature beers, but you run out, right? And he's got to brew another batch. So every time it's off, and when it comes out, I'm like a kid in a candy store. I fire down here pretty quick and then have a beer. So it's been pretty good.
Yeah, it's like Pliny the Elder or something, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's just super excited, but it's a lager area down here. We go through our lager pretty quick. He's in 2 fermenters at a time on that thing, and that's over 600 gallons of beer.
Wow.
And we can't keep up with it. They happen, and we call it low fence down here, and it is definitely the beer of choice, no doubt here. That and Hop Scud, which is a beer that we brewed with 21st Amendment for one of my fundraisers, and they were gracious enough to let us have that recipe because it was kind of a beer that I did for it, and it's been a pretty popular beer down here because people that aren't really into IPAs yet, it's kind of an intro beer into the IPA world,
Oh, okay.
gluten reduced and stuff like that. So it doesn't sit in their belly, doesn't have as much of that hoppy aftertaste, that you have to kind of get acquainted to when you first get into it. So it's been a good beer down here as well. We've really just enjoyed the community and how they've taken us in and come on out. So it's been really, really fun.
Yeah, you're in Texas area, right? Is that where the brewery's at?
Yeah, so we're about 12 miles north of San Antonio
Mm.
on I-10. And it's basically right in between San Antonio and Austin. So we actually get a lot of Austin, a lot of people from the Bay Area have moved to Austin. So we have a lot of people that come down here because they want to hang out and have the beer and they know there's a Giants game on pretty much every day. So it's been a really cool deal that way of just having other people you see so many Bay Area people or people that lived in the Bay Area at one time. They're lifelong Giants fans that live out here or they're here out here for work, especially in the Austin area. They come on down and it's just been great to kind of get to know everybody and it's been good conversations and it's been super fun. So I mean, I've just really enjoyed that whole experience as a player. When they retire, they have a hard time. They have a hard time just trying to figure out how to transition and what they're going to do next and fulfillment. Baseball is such an extreme game and then extreme competition that it's really hard to mimic some of that and the fulfillment that you get. What can I do that can kind of help me with my competitiveness and also help me with just being able to feel like I can get up and have a routine, have a reason to get up every day. Because it's really hard when you no longer play baseball that you've done your whole life and you're 40 years old and then you got to figure out a new routine. So it's been really good for me to learn that, and I've just really appreciated what it's challenged me. I'm not a CEO. I didn't go to school for this. Running a business, I'm not taking one business class, and so I'm learning from CEOs. I'm sitting with a group of CEOs. I'm talking with them. They're kind of training me as I go. So I'm kind of getting baptized by fire, they say. But it's been a great experience for me.
Well, you talk about trying to find your new way of life when you retire. It gives maybe some ex-Giants some places to come hang out.
I
Maybe
wish, man.
get
I
Hunter
would.
Pence and Romo in there.
Yeah. Hunter. He's in Houston sometimes. His family's down there. Told me he needed to come on up, but ultimately it gives me an excuse to get Buster over here
Yeah.
and do stuff with him. But I'm trying to get some guys in. We've had some other players. I've had a guy, Kevin Pucedes. I don't know if you remember him. He
Mm.
was with us for a little bit. Went to the Royals. He actually lives here in the area. He comes in quite a bit. So there's been Josh Beckett actually lives right here in
Oh.
town. He doesn't come in. Yeah, I think he's like, you don't want me in your brewery, man. Like you just want. Yeah, I was like, all right. So he's kind of a quiet guy here in town. But I wish he'd come on in just to hang out for a little bit. I actually had the same agent he had,
Mm.
so I know him pretty well. It's just sometimes guys kind of they go their own way once they retire, But I have had a few athletes here come on in and say hi. Believe it or not, scouts come in here all the time because we got some pretty good baseball players here in town. So the scouts I've had a few scouts come on in that have been there who were watching a game and they found out this is my place and they come in and they ask me to pick my brain. And sometimes they'll drop a card off. I had one scout drop a card off and said, hey, here's my number. Let me know what you think of this kid that's throwing pretty hard for Bernie High School. If you can check him out. So it's been fun, just kind of how the baseball world's kind of all stayed connected. It's been pretty cool.
You also get some celebrities in there. I know you had WWE Goldberg stop by, right?
Yeah, Goldie. Yeah, he lives here. He plays football with my son at the high school.
Ah.
He's moved to town here, and so we were doing some commercial stuff just for Bernie IHD or Bernie ISD, just the whole school district in general, get people fired up. And then believe it or not, who moved here about 2 blocks from the brewery, just up the street, is Jay Buhner, who
Oh
when he
wow.
came by, I was super pumped. I was like, dude, you were actually I lived in Washington when Griff and Randy and Buhner and Martinez and Olerud and all those guys are playing. So it was really cool just to be able to see him, and he's kind of one of those kids he was kind of a hero for me growing up. So just see those kind of guys have, man, George Strait lives here in town. We've got all kinds of good celebrities, but then they're also just down to earth people. It's not a big hoopla thing for people here. And so it's been fun that way. And they'll stop. And George hasn't. If George came in, I'd have to hire security and, shut this place down. So he's like the president. So he probably wouldn't want to step in here, but no, it's been fun. It's been fun with everybody.
How does that work when athletes come in, or especially fellow baseball players? Do you keep your brewery kind of non-baseball related, or do you ask them to sign a jersey and hang it up, or how do you play that?
Man, we just we don't do any of that. Like we'll have some speakers come in for men's night. We've had my buddy, in fact, my buddy this Thursday, Jason Grimsley,
Mm.
played for the Yankees in the 90s, and he was a teammate of mine in Kansas City. He's going to speak. He wrote a book called it's this book right there. He wrote a book called Cross Stitched, and it's kind of how he found his way. He'll come in and maybe sign something for me to put on the wall, and do stuff like that. But man, I try to keep that pretty, when guys come in, they want to really just kind of relax. They just want to kind of we'll hang out a little bit. And especially when they come in to talk, I try to be respectful that way. And, so they're coming in to speak and kind of make an impact in a different way. And they want to sign autographs for the people they can. I try not to ask for it. I have a bat wall right here in the brewery. Just all the bats of the guys that I played with or against that I liked. Like if I was a fan of the competition, sorry, my wife walked by the window and she looked in here, so I was waving at her. Yeah, is a fan of the competition. When I competed against them, I'd always ask for their bat. So I have some great guys on the bat rack wall, which is fun stories too for people coming in. Just because they're like, hey, tell me what do you got? You got this Ichiro bat. What's the story behind that? So I'll tell them. I mean, I have a story behind every bat, and so it's super fun to be able to help, kind of bring some entertainment to people coming and ask, but it's also kind of therapeutic for me. Sometimes, as a baseball player, we want to move on because it's really what we were trained to do, right? We're trained to have short memories. The game's over, move on to the next game. So you tend to want to do that just how you are. And so a lot of guys, they just want to move on from the game. They have their jerseys on their wall, their house, or they have a room with their stuff, but it's not like I sit. Mine's in a man cave that's, 90 feet from my house that my kids have. That's where their TV's at with the pool table. And I don't go sit down there and stare at my jerseys, like I just don't. I just need a place to hang them. But, being able to kind of reminisce a little bit is actually very therapeutic for us. And I think it keeps us from, forgetting where we came from. And some guys, they kind of, it's almost like it's not the same. I wouldn't say. I mean, you can never ever kind of match it, but it's almost similar to like PTSD with some of the military guys. A lot of those guys, they don't want to always talk about what they've done, and they don't want to rehash it because they don't want to go down memory lane because they don't want to necessarily deal with all that. And so for a baseball player, for me, it's I don't talk about it a whole lot. I really don't. I'll come speak a little bit. When I speak, I do because I have a leadership design messages around some what I learned in baseball, especially what I learned from being with the Giants and with Bochy. But it's not something I sit around and talk about. I can tell you, my wife will roll her eyes. She doesn't want to. She doesn't want to. She's my. I just got married in November, so we have a blended family. She wasn't with me during that time of baseball, but that's not something that I want her. Hey, honey, let me tell you about how cool I was back in. No one wants to hear all that. So I just kind of. It's a good thing for me to be able to reminisce with some people.
Well, it's kind of crazy because I was thinking you've been retired for basically 8 years now, so
Yeah.
it's flying by, right? It doesn't seem like it's that long ago.
It doesn't. I mean, I can tell you, 8 years in the big leagues felt a lot longer. It's a hard job. So to be even, I even see some of the guys that that broke in right as I was leaving, and you still, so I'll watch some games, obviously, because I do some KMBR stuff, and I'll see some of these guys, and I think they're still young kids, and then I'll look, and you look at Brandon Crawford, he's 36 years old, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, that's when I retired, and that you just don't realize, though, it's been 8 years. Some of those, that's a guy that came in the day you retired is a vet now, and you just don't see it that way because that's not how I saw them. I didn't see Crawford as a vet. I saw him as a young kid who had a ton of talent, and he's probably the best shortstop I've ever played behind me, so that's how I saw him. You don't see him as that 36-year-old. It's the old salty vet now, so it is kind of crazy how fast time does go. and it does fly. But I guess I'm old enough and retired enough to where I got invited to the Hall of Fame game. I'm going to pitch in here in about a week and a half, and I am definitely not mound ready. So I'm hoping I don't blow out. But I'm old enough now where I get invited to those things, the old timer games. So that just tells you I am getting up there. So it's pretty funny.
Well, you are getting up there because you talked about getting married. You're a grandpa now, right?
I am. I am a grandfather. I started laughing. It's so many people are like, please tell me that's not Walker's. My oldest son's 15. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I said, blended family. My new wife has had a baby at 17. So she has a 29, about to be a 30-year-old daughter. She has a baby. So my wife and I were laughing as I was like, hey, so we get married and you are an empty nester for about 10 years and 10, 11 years. And now all of a sudden you marry into a family with 3 adolescent boys and they are all boy. And she had 1 daughter and she's got these 3 adolescent boys, all boys, started coming to the table with their no shirt on and using their forearm for a napkin. And she's like, we're going to wear a shirt. We're going to start using a napkin, So we have that going on. And then I said, and I became a grandfather within a month after we were married. I was like, this is an interesting dynamic, but man, I'm super proud of my stepdaughter and my granddaughter, man. They were just here this weekend and it was such a joy to see them. I was so thankful for it. They're beautiful.
It's kind of like the Brady Bunch you got going on over there.
It's exactly it. That's exactly. I tell my dad sometimes we're driving in, we'll drive up, and the crumpets are in town, Dad. So get ready, we're freaking pulling up. So it's pretty funny, or the clampets, I should say, not the crumpets, but the clampets. But yeah, it's a pretty funny deal when we pull up. It's been great.
Yeah, and your sons are upgraded to uncles now, right? So they're getting old
Yeah.
too, I guess.
Yeah, and you sit there, my 10-year-old's like he's trying to figure it out. He's like, wait, I don't understand how I'm an uncle because my uncles are a lot older. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, they are. That's kind of how it works. I was like, son, you definitely you got an interesting dynamic as a family, but you'll understand one day. But it's been really really fun, and it's interesting. My oldest son, he kind of takes a baby and it'll scream at him and he just, what do I do? And I said, you hold that for another 10 minutes. It's called birth control. Like, just remember that. So I tell him that all the time. And then my Logan, my middleman, he loves animals and pets and stuff. So he'll actually hold her and kind of look at her. They just, and then Colt, my youngest, he just stares at her funny. He just kind of looks at her. He doesn't really know what to do with the baby, but it's been fun. And it's been an experience and one that I've really, really enjoyed.
Yeah, it makes me think of your sons because which one jumped in your lap when you were a player, right? And you blew out your knee. You kind of had a
Yeah.
freak injury there. Is it
Yeah.
your
Yeah. That
oldest?
was, that was Walker. That was my oldest. Yeah. And he is a freak still. Oh man, pushing almost a little over 6'4", 245 as a freshman in high school. And he's a big kid, plays football,
Mm.
Done really, really well the last couple years. He works really hard, been proud of him and plays basketball too. And none of them play baseball, which down in Texas is, it depends on who you talk to. But for me, I'm okay with it. They play a lot of games down here, too much baseball, in my opinion. I think these kids are going to burn out as much. I mean, I've got friends that have their kids in this baseball in 120 games every weekend, 4 and 5 games, constantly having to go to one sport practice, but always get to a baseball practice or a workout or a hitting lesson or a pitching lesson. And man, it's just a lot. And I don't remember ever doing that. So when my kids didn't want to play baseball, I said, I'm good with that. If you play, you got to love it. I'm not going to go travel all over the state for you to pick flowers in the outfield. So you either got to love it or we don't play it. And I'm okay if you don't play it. It's not something I don't need to live through you guys on that. And you choose something that you're going to enjoy that I will be all in with you if you're all in with it. And so they all play basketball. And selfishly, I'm trying to push golf a little bit just because you can play with your sons when you're 70, 80 years old,
Yeah.
so something I can do there. But right now it's just kind of watching them grow up and letting them breathe and letting them run and see what happens.
Well, speaking of golf, how was the swing? Because I ran into Buster at Pebble Beach, and I thought it was a good little joke. I said, "Hey, is Affeldt a good golfer?" And he kind of looked at me and gave a half grin. He goes, "I don't know. Why don't you ask Affeldt?"
He's a better golfer than me. I'm actually not too bad. I had a handicap in the singles, and then when you get and then I got remarried, and my wife actually golfs, but you're busy, and she has a store across the street from me called Gunpowder and Cabernet. It's a really cool, it's a retail store, hats, shirts. She does all her stuff in there. And then we got the brewery, and we try to get out once a week, and we were doing really well. And then it just kind of went to a situation where, all right, we got kids, we got sports, we're going to try to golf when we can. So I'm down to a 12. I think my last check-in was at a 12-4, which a couple tournaments I've been in recently with some buddies. I'm actually happy I was at a 12-4 because I'm not playing to a single by any way, shape, or form. So that actually saved me a little bit on some of my shots. So the padding's needed. But Buster, man, that guy, he just has such a good his swing at the plate is a great golf swing, keeping those hands in. And I can only imagine he's got probably some really good power, but he's going to be a good golfer. I need to get out there to Atlanta and play with all those guys. I know Bogey and Javi. I'll play with them as well, so I had to go out and hack it up with them a little bit. That should be fun one day.
Yeah, I think George Contos is a good golfer too, right?
Really good, but really, really, really good, and hits for a ton of power. But I played with him in Hawaii, and I was not that good at the time. So I didn't start golfing until I retired. So I was just kind of starting out golf, but I played with him in Hawaii when we were all out there for that Maui thing for fans, and it was crazy how good he was. He can play. He can play a little bit. I would definitely not put money down against him. That's for sure.
Yeah, it makes me think of Matt Cain too. I know he's a good golfer. And
Yep.
I had a vague memory. Wasn't he kind of giving you a hard time when you retired for getting emotional? And I was wondering if
Yeah.
did you give it back to him when it was his turn to retire?
Yeah. I tell guys, don't do anything unless you've already lived that deal, man. Like once you go through it, you'll know, so it's a tough change, and it's emotional for a few reasons. One, it's you dedicated a lot of your time to it, right? So a lot of your life was poured into this. You learned a lot of your memories were poured into it. And most guys, if they get that far into the big leagues, like those guys got, a lot of them, a few of them didn't go to college. I didn't go to college. Matt didn't go to college. So now all of a sudden we don't know anything. We went from high school to professional baseball in the big leagues pretty quick. Matt and I think Matt got there when he was like 20. I got there when I was 22. Buster got there when he was 23, I think, or 22, 23. But he had gone to college and he had done that experience. And so, obviously those two guys never have to work for the rest of their lives, and, technically for me, I just wouldn't say I have to work, but I want to work. Right. And so for me, it's just, I have the ability to work like this, create my own brewery and do my own thing and have that opportunity. But, the scary thing is what's next. You cannot go. There's only so much. I'm a big hunter and a big golfer. But you can't golf, you can't hunt every day when you start in 36 years old for the rest of your life. Everybody thinks they can. Everybody's like, oh, must be lucky you get to retire. No, because I don't believe we were built to just sit around. And so I just don't think that's how people can be. And for me, how I think of as a man, it's like I have to work, I have to provide, I've got 3 boys that they can't sit there and watch. Oh, look, Dad, we grew up watching Dad just hang out, and then they think they can just hang out, right? They don't. When I retired, they were young. They didn't remember much of it. My oldest was 7, 8 years old. 8 years old. Yeah, he was 8 years old. So the rest were 5 and 3, and the other 2. So they don't remember anything. And so they have to see me work, and they have to see that it takes a lot of work to become somebody. And so I think that's the biggest fear with all of us is some of our emotion goes into the fact that we are scared a little bit. We know we need to retire, even if you make all that money like Kane and Buster, and they made some amazing contracts. But in reality, it's still scary because you don't know what you're supposed to do. You just don't know what you're supposed to do next. So you're sitting there like, what do I do? What do I become? What does life look like? I don't know how to now you're a full-time father. You're not a baseball father. You're not, you're not gone 2 weeks a month. You're not at the ballpark by 1:00 every day when you are home. There's a family transition there. There's a family dynamic there. And it's hard. It's very difficult. And it's just one of those things where it's a scary thing for us to go into, but for me, it's, man, you have the ability to be a great father to your children. Now you get to have opportunities that a lot of dads wish they had, which was time. You have the ability now to kind of set your own way. And even if you want to work, you can build a schedule around you because you don't necessarily have to work for somebody. Most of these guys will figure out a way to have people work for them still and or be a part of something that's pretty loose on their schedule. But then take guys that weren't as fortunate as we were to play as long as we played in the game and make the money we made. It's even scarier for them. They gotta have an understanding of what they're going to do next. So it's a scary thing to transition that early in life.
Do you ever wake up and think, "Oh crap, I got to get to the ballpark," and then think, "Oh wait, I'm not doing that anymore"?
Early, the first year I did. The first year, you woke up almost like, man, like not necessarily in the off season, because your off season is your off season. It wasn't much different for me going into that off season because you kind of took it easy, and I didn't stop working out. So I knew for me from people in experience that I've seen retire, if you quit working out, your body breaks down. Yeah. So I wasn't that guy that was like, I'm not going to work out at all. I'm done. I worked out my whole career. You get heavier, which I didn't want to be, and two, your body starts to ache because it's breaking down muscle. So I stayed with my workouts, probably increased them a little bit because I didn't worry about, any kind of injuries and stuff or getting too, big in the shoulders because I didn't, I wanted to throw. That's kind of was my deal, is I didn't do a lot of upper body because I didn't want to hurt my shoulders. So I didn't worry about it that much anymore. But I tell you, once the season started and people started going to spring training, and I'm looking at the camp starting up, and I went in for a couple of years after it, which I really, really enjoyed. The Giants just don't bring us out anymore like they used to, but we really enjoyed going to camp and visiting with the guys and hanging out and giving some of our wisdom. That helped kind of that transition a little bit. And like I said, I think they don't bring us out as much anymore because we're that era. We just said, "Hey man, suck it up and figure out how to get the guy out." We don't know how to tell you analytically how to do it. I just know I got to buzz a guy in. I got to make him uncomfortable. I got to have some confidence out there. And that's not the way baseball is necessarily taught very much anymore. So they have a hard time bringing us out. But I think that the time I did get to go out there was very, very good for me in transitioning.
Well, you mentioned working out and having to stay active and do things. What kind of workouts do you do? Because I was thinking before we started, you look almost even more leaner than maybe when you were playing. Like
I'm actually in a lot better shape than when I played. I started doing a few things. One, I started doing a lot more. So I, instead of just a stationary bike, which is what I played, I actually mountain bike. I do that. Boxing was big for me. I actually wish I would have boxed when I played because I think the wrist strength that it gives you and the core strength and the same muscles that I had to use to explode to home, I use when I box, and I just got stronger. And I've told guys, even when afterwards, I was like, "Hey, if I can encourage you to do anything, it's box. Like you don't have to go fight, but train like you're going to fight because that'll keep you focused on what you're doing." But man, it just helped me quite a bit. And so I started doing a lot of that, and I started doing a lot of HIIT training, sports training. I work at a place called D1 here in town, which was started by, it's a big group. They have them all over the nation. It was started by Tim Tebow got a group together, and they train athletes, but I started training with them, and they do group classes and stuff like that help with that because it keeps me in that situation. But again, I'm not eating out every night. I eat different now because I'm done playing. I don't have to eat, at restaurants half the month. So I eat a lot healthier, more active, obviously, because I don't have to save all my energy for a game. Just trying to figure out what I need to do for my body to protect it. And my wife, thankfully, my wife's a very fit person, and she did a lot of Spartan races and stuff like that. So she doesn't let me slack, and I definitely don't want to be shown up by her. So she keeps me going as well. So we do a lot of weighted vest walk. I actually do that. I actually have a vest that's made for firemen, and I can kind of put it together, and it's about 55 pounds. And I kind of walk. We do 10 miles a lot of times, and that just pretty much almost every day we'll do 5-10 mile walks in those things. My wife wears one about 40 pounds. So again, I got to stay ahead of her, or she's gonna make fun of me. So, but it's been great.
where you talk about doing some speed bag work, boxing stuff, so you can help serve the beer and then throw guys out and be the bartender.
Multitasking. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. That's
Well,
right.
you're busier than ever in retirement. You do speaking engagements. You have a new book coming out too, right? And you have the podcast. So,
Yeah. Yeah. The book's great, but the book's been good for me. The podcast is called Built for the Storm. It's just, and we have different guests on. We talk about storms in life. We don't talk about successes all the time. We'll talk about some of why they are successful,
mm,
but then I get into where it becomes the human side of people, where it's like, hey, why in your successes, how did you learn to handle storms, or what storm did you go through that allowed you that storm shaped you, that allowed you to be who you are? And that's the buffalo charges storms, right? Cows run away from them. But buffaloes go at them. And that's hence why we have the hophead buffalo on the Free Roam Brewing Company. And it's a buffalo brewery, because I want people to know that whatever storm you're in, come and have a beer. Whatever storm you just got out of, and you're kind of happy and you're encouraged, come have a beer, man. Tell your story, talk to people. That's kind of what we're all about. And so I kind of made the book the same way. And it's just dealing with storms and how I dealt with them, stories of what storms I went through, and then how I handled them and what I learned from them, and what I learned because of who I was as a baseball player on how to handle them. And that's really big for me too, because obviously, I unfortunately, like I said, I just recently got remarried. I lost a 22-year marriage,
mm.
and it was not due to me. It wasn't my deal, but it just happened. And so when someone is no longer a part of the situation, or doesn't want to be a part of the situation, you got to figure out how not to be bitter. You got 3 boys. You don't want to be angry. You want to look at, say, okay, well, what mistakes did I make that could have had, what could I have changed? How I could have been different? What do I know about myself now, that I had to be different in? And again, what did the storm teach me? And it taught me a lot about myself. And I believe I'm a better dad because of the storm. And unfortunately, that's how I became a better dad, I think. And but I think, fortunately for my new bride, I think she's thankful. She's like, well, I'm actually thankful because I got to meet you. So she's thankful for this situation. But then also, I think she's just knowing that she's going to get the better version of me, because I went through a lot of therapy, a lot of trauma therapy, just dealing with a lot of stuff, and got to learn so much about myself. I know who I am a lot more now, because of the storms that I went through. And now I get to be the best version for the people that I'm a part of, whether it be my wife or my kids or my friends or my family. And so that's what that book's all about. It's just learning from it and how to take it on. I'm really excited for that book.
Is it done, or are you still kind of working on it, or?
We were done with the first draft. But as I've kind of read through it and kind of, learned even in the last few months of, getting married and understanding that, I'm sitting with my writer. I use a ghostwriter because I have a lot of thoughts and I can speak, but I can't necessarily write. So he helps me organize my thoughts and help. And so we sit quite a bit. And so we're going through here in the next month and almost kind of retouching everything up, because I don't really like it yet. I like it. I guess I'd say I like it. I don't love it yet. And I want to love it before I put it out. So I'm hoping for a fall release, and
Mm.
man, I'm really excited for it.
Well, awesome. Whenever it does come out, we'll make sure to post some links out there. Excited to read that.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
yeah, and you've had some great guests on your podcast, like Amy G, Chris
Yeah.
Myers, Buster Posey. I'm excited to listen to the Tom Tolbert episode.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That one got me.
Mm.
That one, you're right. I've had some great guests, some very, very meaningful ones that I have really appreciated. But I will tell you that the Tolbert one, man, that's as vulnerable. Man, that's pretty good.
I forgot he had that emergency surgery heart issue, right?
He did. He had emergency surgery heart. He had a death in the family that was
Oh.
really, really tragic, that he hadn't really talked a whole lot about
Mm.
until that podcast. And I was just on KMBR with him the other day, and I just said, man, I just want to thank you. Publicly, I wanted to thank him, because I think what people don't realize is how hard it is to be vulnerable, especially as an athlete, right? And as a man, as an athlete, and as a radio host like he is, like, that's still a lot of people want to hear his opinions, but they don't ever ask what his story is.
Mm.
And that's the biggest thing for me on this podcast, is when you bring people of influence or affluence on a podcast, they've never been asked about who they are or their story. They just asked about, well, the impact of the celebrity status, or, how cool are you? Because I had Naya on, who's a phenomenal musician, and she kind of wrote that same thing about it. She's like, it's just a refreshing deal to get brought on and been asked about my story, and not asked to be this or be that or promote this. It's they actually asked me about me and why am I the way I am? And it forces you to think, right? It forces you to process through that. And some people, they just don't actually even get a chance to ever say that. So I think it's very therapeutic for me and for them. I hear a lot, I learn so much from it. And I think for them, they can kind of feel free to talk about it, not be ashamed, not be embarrassed, not be worried. This is something that I think people need to hear right now in this country and in this world, is the human side of people. And that's super important to let everybody know. No one's perfect. And if you ever think that you're going through something that you should be ashamed of, other people have gone through it. You're right on time. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. Life is life, and it happens, and it sucks sometimes, but we're going to get through it. And we got a lot of people here that are willing to encourage you to get through it. And I think that's a refreshing message that needs to be heard.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, and I love how you're vulnerable too, telling a little bit about your story, and
Oh yeah.
having people like teammates on too, like Buster Posey. I was wondering, you were there in '09 and kind of saw him rise. So do you get to take responsibility for his Hall of Fame career? Or?
I take responsibility for his Gold Gloves. I threw so many scuds. He had to learn to block balls left and right. So that's what I would take responsibility for. The Hall of Fame side of it, I don't think anybody can take responsibility for that. But it was definitely a treat to play with him. When you have a young kid come up that has talent, I've seen a lot of young kids come up that have talent, they don't pan out, or they pan out, but they don't pan out. They just become a player. They don't become an impact player. And I think for him, what I saw when he first came in, my thought was like, well, I've been a part of 2 Rookie of the Year situations. Angel Burrow is the other one, phenomenal shortstop when he's young, but he just kind of the league took its toll on him. He just kind of fizzled, right? Great arm, great shorts. Tremendous talent, but he just ended up kind of fizzling out a little bit. So you're like, Rookie of the Year doesn't really do a lot to me. It doesn't make it. There's nothing about that I would be too taken back by, except for he had a great year, right? He came out, man, and the league adjusts to you, and he adjusted right back. And pretty much to me, it was a Rookie of the Year every year. The way he bounced back, you have comeback player twice now. You Rookie of the Year, MVP. The guy just did everything really, really well. And he does not. Top Gun's one of my favorite movies of all time. The second one too. The second one's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I do equate a lot of things to those movies, and I do not look at him as Maverick. He's Iceman to me, man. That guy just, man, he's just good. He's just good. Does it by the book. Does it well. And he doesn't need to take risks. He just does it well. And he's consistent, and he does his job. He doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. He just does it. And he was like that for me. And to see him do that year in, year out, the whole time I played with him, not to mention off the field, he's tremendous off the field. He's a great father, great husband, good in the community, a genuine man that loves well, cares genuinely about people, about his teammates, and you're good. You just have a hard time in sports world when you're as good as he is to not let that stuff kind of get you taken the other way. And he never let it happen. And so for me, I was just so thankful to have him on the podcast, but more than this, to play with him and to call him a friend has been great.
I think it's cool too, like you said, how he's not trying to be get public credit for things. He just does it quietly, right? So
yeah, he lets it speak for himself, right? You don't see him do hoopla stuff. Yeah. He hit a grand slam in Cincinnati, got excited. It's as excited as I've ever seen him hit a homer. Why wouldn't you? He just hit a grand slam to pretty much send us to the next series against St. Louis. But he just never got like that. Everything he did, he said, well, I act like I've done it before. And 2, I'm doing my job. You get paid $25 million a year. I got to catch, I got to hit homers, I got to drive in runs, I got to hit in the 3-hole. That's just what you do. Like, it's not That's not something that you need to celebrate every time you get a hit or hit a homer. It's just what you do. And I think that's where his marketing came in. And he's a perfect example of why you don't need to do a bunch of stuff to get marketed. You just got to play your game and be good. You don't, there's nothing showboaty about it. I mean, the Jeter style of baseball was Buster's style of baseball. Like they just played the same way. They just did their job. There's so many people have come out and said Jeter is an average shortstop. He was just on a really good team. He's not a Hall of Famer for an average shortstop. He was not an average shortstop. He was a great shortstop, but he was a good leader. He understood the game really well. He did the job at the plate. He didn't hit 50 homers. He did his job, and he was a leader on a really good team. And that's what makes him a Hall of Famer. And everybody wants to look at this. Well, he didn't hit 50 homers a year. It's not what makes you a Hall of Famer. And with Buster, it was the same thing. He's not going to hit 400 or 500 homers. That's not what makes him a Hall of Famer. He caught 5 no-hitters. He's got gold glove after gold glove. He's got an MVP. He's got rookie of the year. He's got 3 world championship rings. He led teams. He pitched. He controlled one of the best pitching staffs. I mean, Kane, Lincecum, Vogelsong, Bumgardner. Like he had to deal, with Zito and Peavy. You had all these different dynamics, and then you had us coming in. You got me that was just hoping to throw it up there and get people to swing and miss, like he had to block my stuff. He had no idea where that was going. Then you had Romo with a super slider, and you had Casilla throwing 100 gazillion everywhere. Wilson with the beard. Javi was probably the most, I mean, he's kind of like Iceman too. He was just like, what you're going to get. We call him the professor, like he just kind of did his job. He didn't really do anything that was out of the ordinary. You knew what you're going to get from Big Hob. So, you just kind of had that, man. And he had to deal with all that stuff and did it really, really well. And so, and not to mention, by the way, I'm not hitting 8-hole, I'm hitting 3. Right. So, man, that's a lot. And so he was really, really good at just, I am who I am. I'm not going to change it. And he didn't change for 12 years. I mean, that's just what he was. And I'm very thankful for that.
Well, you talk about throwing to him. So, and you also said you have the old timers game coming up. So what are you hitting on the radar these days, do you think?
Oh man, I have no idea. Like part of me is like, I either going to blow out throwing 78 or I'm going to try to figure out how to contact Bochy and tell him, hey, I'm throwing 93 and I still got it. Give me a year, like it's like the way some of these guys are pitching right now. Sometimes I'm like, they're not even pitching anymore. So it's like, you know what? I could come in as a lefty and just throw it up there and give up homers. You're going to pay a guy $12 million a year to have a 4. I'll be happy to throw balls down the middle for you. But I'll tell you, man, it'll actually be surreal to get back out there. It'll be interesting to see how I know it's kind of more fun. It's more of a fun game. There's nothing here nor there, but it might be, we'll see. My competitive nature kicks in. So I could very easily be on the DL afterwards, or IL now, whatever they call it, so.
Are you going to have a good run out song to the mound, or do you
hopefully they play our songs. That'd be great if they asked. I came out to Pillar Fireproof by Pillar every year, so it'd be awesome if they allowed for that.
Well, if you're in Texas, are you going to make the drive out to see Bochy, or have you already done it? Or
I am going to make it up there. I talked to him. I text him quite a bit, actually, and I will get up there. My daughter actually lives in Fort Worth. So we're going to go up there anyway. And my granddaughter hasn't seen a game yet. So I'm saying that I would appreciate if anybody takes Harley to her first game. It would be her mother, obviously. But then it would be her grandpa that kind of has an in there. So it'd be nice to go out there. So we'll be seeing Boch this summer, I'm sure. So
that's awesome. Well, since you did win 3 rings with the Giants, I'm always curious, what do you do with the rings? Do you have them on lockdown? Are they on display? How do you handle that?
Yeah, they're in a vault in my office. They come out when people ask, I'll bring them out. I'll let them see them. And then when I speak, I'll wear, usually I wear the 2014 ring. This is my favorite one. But then if we come out like we did for the 2012 reunion, right, you wear the 2012 and 2014's next year. And so when we go off of that, I'll wear that ring, but I don't really show them a lot. I think to me, that's another one of those things where man, you come into my house, I want you to just come in, have a beer, and relax on the back porch. I don't want you to feel like you got to go look at all my stuff, So
Yeah.
I just don't want it to be that kind of a feeling when you come in. But I am proud of them. And I'm proud that I have three of them. Each of my boys get one, so I'm very thankful of that. But I definitely have been. I definitely don't keep them out there to reminisce about. I pull them out when I need to.
Now, do the boys, do they know the code of the vault, or do you ever catch them doing that?
No, no. They don't know the code to that at all. They don't know the code to any of my vaults. I have a couple of them, but they don't know the codes to them, and they got to earn them. So they're theirs, but they got to earn them, and then they know it's not just because you're my son. You got there's things in life that
Mm.
that ring represents, and the reason why they have them is either each born on a World Series year.
Wow.
But the first Walker was born when I was in Colorado and we lost to Boston. So he initially was like, man, I get a loser ring. Like, yep, that's all right, bud. Kind of
Second
hang
place
with him on
trophy.
that. Yeah. But then when we won that championship in Kansas City, I looked at him. I said, that's yours, buddy. So, but it does represent hard work. It does represent goal setting. It does represent different things. So that's why they can definitely have it, but they've got things they got to do.
Well, I know you came up with the Royals and then you won the World Series against the Royals. I know that means a lot to you. But no one ever mentions you kind of set the table for Bumgarner's epic relief appearance in that game. Do you ever tell him that?
Yeah, oh yeah, I tell them that all the time. I let people know everybody's gonna give Bum a car. I was like, man, he should have thrown me the keys to that car. No, but that's kind of a team, and what Bum had to do to even have that situation happen, it was incredible. And they actually gave him the win initially, and they switched it to me, and
Mm.
and I went up to him and I said, hey man, I'll be honest with you, I don't feel bad at all. I'm taking that win. I was like, you got plenty of them, you have plenty more. I want the one that actually means a lot to me to get Game 7 winner of a
Yeah.
World Series in Kansas City. So I did not apologize for taking that win from him. But man, what he did in that World Series, what he did in all the World Series, but especially just in that 2014 run, I mean that was incredible. And to be able to be just see what he did, took this. I mean, that guy, I mean, I don't think you'll ever see it be. I think you will. I think you can't really say it in baseball. I think baseball will have a lot of those things, but it's going to be a long time before you see a starter that makes that kind of impact and have those kind of performances in the playoffs that many times in one playoff in World Series situation that he can do. What he did in
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, what he did in St. Louis, what he did Kansas City with the CG, and then coming right back and bouncing back and throwing five. I mean, it just doesn't happen. And so again, that's another thing to be a part of something like that. Man, that's pretty awesome.
Well, I don't know if it will happen because the computer might not allow it.
Yeah, it probably won't. Analytically, you're not supposed to
Yeah.
do that. So you got to pull them right here. I mean,
Yeah.
I agree with you there too. The only it might happen on the Rangers if they get their
Yeah.
boches at the helm, because I don't think he's going to agree with the computer in that situation.
Is Bumgarner, does he relax away from the game, or is he kind of intense all the time? He looks like a guy you don't want to get on his bad side.
Yeah, you don't want to get on his bed, but he does, man. I tell you, when he's not pitching, he's probably crushing ice cream in the clubhouse. That was kind of his deal. So he'll relax. He's very meticulous. I realize he kind of, I don't know if he's going to ever play again, if he's just taking time off to breathe or what, but he's very meticulous about what he does, when he does it, how he does it. Even throwing, playing catch is all the same thing. At least when I played with him, he was very meticulous. But when he came to work, and when he was done working, he was done working. And I think that's just kind of who he was. But he's an intense guy. He's a very competitive guy, and part of probably his situation the last couple of years is he doesn't like to lose, and he started to feel a little bit of, man, I just don't have my same stuff, or it's just not the same situation. And that's a really tough thing for any athlete when they don't have their stuff. A Wainwright. And that's why I hope Bum keeps playing, because he just has to make an adjustment. I mean, Wainwright didn't have any better stuff than Bum. Wainwright just makes the adjustments.
Mm.
And he's had to make the adjustments for 6-7 years now. And that's what's incredible, is that guy just keeps making adjustments. And, I think that those are the kind of situations that happen. It's hard for an athlete when they have an expectation of themselves, when they're not performing at that expectation, to kind of have the wake up call of like, oh man, I'm a different pitcher. So yeah, you got to have a different mindset, and I think that's what has to happen for Bum. I hope he does it, be honest with you.
No, it'd be great to see him keep going. And got two fun questions for you. I know you're a Christian, and whenever I have guys on that are men of faith, I like to ask, so when you're in church, do you sing the songs or are you lip syncing? Because
Yeah, I sing them.
okay.
I am not a good singer, but I sing them, and I sing them just because, I believe in worship. I believe in singing in general. I think it just music. If you think about what music does to the soul, everybody, even if you don't believe in God, you don't go to church, and a lot of people like that don't sing worship songs or they make fun of them. But the reality of it is, anytime you can sing, you can find a lot of joy. And the way I view God is, he doesn't hear I think he looks at your heart. And there's talented people out there that can sing really, really well. I wish I had it. Every musician wants to be an athlete. Every athlete wants to be a musician. So I wish I had some talent to sing, because I really appreciate what worship does. But I don't ever let it hold me back. I mean, I'm not belting at the top of my lungs so everybody has to hear me, but I'm definitely singing it. And it's super important to do that.
Because I sing with a little bit of tremble, a little bit of fear. Because when you get that awkward pause, you don't want to be caught belting it out.
Yeah, the last guy singing. Yeah.
But I asked Denard Span that, and he said he gets into it. So
yeah, that guy probably can sing. I mean, shoot, that guy had a lot of talent, so he probably sings.
well, it's been so great to have you on, and you're a busy guy. You talked about working out earlier. So have you gotten in the workout today? And what else is on the
No.
agenda?
Yeah, I have not. I had a sick teenage boy today. He's been running
Oh,
a little bit. Football takes a toll on your body, but he's got a little ear infection working. So I kind of was up at him. I was going to take him. He has to be at practice at 6 a.m. So I usually am up. I'm a early riser anyway. We get up about 5:15.
wow.
We usually go get our workout in, or a couple of things. I'll cold plunge. I have a cold plunge that I jump in and do that to wake up. But I did not do that today. I'm going to go home. I'm actually, my plan is to grab some lunch, check on my son. And we have a home workout that my wife and I do sometimes. So we're going to do that and jump in the sauna a little bit. And we do all this body stuff, man, just to kind of keep going. But I will be doing a workout today. I don't miss those. And I'm sure we'll get a walk in. And then tonight is our cigar lounge situation here at the brewery. We have a big cigar thing going on tonight, so I have to come back out there for that, and a barbecue going on. So we'll have a fun night tonight at the brewery for a little bit.
Awesome. That sounds good. I'll be getting my workout in a little bit. I'll be thinking of you. So
Yeah, please do. That'll be great. That'll be great.
well, Jeremy, thanks for coming on. It's been a lot of fun catching up with you. Hope to go to the brewery one of these days.
Yeah, please do, man. Let me know, man. I'll buy you a beer. Be good.
Awesome.
Be a good time.
I'll let you know when I'm in town.
Yeah, please do. Let me know. Be good.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Have a good
All right,
day.
man. Pleasure. Yep, you too.
Yeah.